really happy that you're all able to make it either live or watching this sometime in the future. Tonight, we'll be talking about Too Late, which is premiering at the Seattle International Film Festival this year. I am Colleen O'Holleran. I'm a programmer for the WTF lineup at the festival, and I have the great pleasure of interviewing these panelists today. And I have to admit, I'm super excited about this conversation because I love this movie. So I have been looking forward to speaking to the panelists. And before we jump into those questions, I did just want to do a little bit of housekeeping and let people know who are joining us live. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A. And if you want to just like make comments, you can do that in the chat box. So there's those two different ways to engage. I will try to get to as many questions as I can, but we may not have time to get to everyone's questions, but please feel free to enter those in if things pop into your mind. So who is here with us today is writer and producer Tom Becker, who is over in the box with director and producer D.W. Thomas. We have actors Will Weldon, there's a wave. Alyssa Limperis, and Ron Lynch. So thanks everyone for joining us. I wanted to start off with you, Tom. So I'm curious, I think like the place to start is the story, right? Like, what was the genesis of this story and what inspired you to write Too Late?
Well, the genesis of the story and what inspired us to do Too Late was Diane and I, how we work is we break the story for the film together. So she has these projects can be years long. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just running off and producing something I really loved and be like, here you go. And so we create these things together. And one of the things we do is we brainstorm ideas. And one of the ideas that we really loved was the notion of a person who had to maintain this presence, this evil entity, whether it's a monster or a ghost or something, especially the idea that a creative person had to feed this evil entity or whatever it was. And so once we settled on that idea, we thought it would be really fun to build it around, we tried to basically think of like, who is a person that we can basically just build it entirely around them, and then just hand it over and see what they think. And if they'd like to do it, it could be the genesis of the project. And so from the ground up, we built it around Ron. There's a little stack of note cards in my file that's just called the Ron Lynch Project. And then we handed it over to Ron, and that's how it all started.
And we initially thought what a great place to sort of have a monster was the comedy scene, because, I mean, really, they come and go, like they say in the movie, but it's true. I mean, you can see one person one week and then not see him for another year, and then see him again and think like, oh yeah, you've been around, right? Like it was only yesterday, but they've been gone for years. So we just thought it was a perfect location. And also there are a lot of monsters, literally or figuratively, I guess, in comedy and in the entertainment industry.
And do you consider yourselves like fans of monster movies, or, were there inspirations in terms of things that you enjoy to watch as far as like creature features and that kind of thing go?
Oh, yes. I am such a fan of monster creature features. I grew up on Gremlins and let's see, what else? I'm drawing a blank on some other ones, but definitely especially with like actual prosthetics and using practicals and having it be kind of quirky and fun. Mm-hmm. And of course, special effects now are so advanced, you can make things look very realistic, but in a way I feel like that takes away from the fun and it makes it almost too scary, and you don't really want to be in that world for too long. So I like keeping it light and fun, and also having a monster that you can kind of sympathize with, because I think Bob DeVore, I'm a little sad when he dies.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I shouldn't, hopefully, sorry, spoiler.
Hopefully people have watched the film before the Q&A. And if not, you know, pretend.
And who knows, he might never die. Really, he could be
there could be a comeback. You know.
Yeah.
Movie villains in this genre never really die.
They never die.
As long as there's money to be made. Freddy's been around for what, 8 movies? Yeah.
Right.
So I want to dive a little bit into, so, you know, we've got like the horror, and we've got the, I love how you bring up Gremlins, because it also has that, like, this sort of like terrifying, but also like fun and light aspect. And then the heart of this film really in so many ways is comedy and the comedy scene. So, you know, DW, I'm curious, like, you know, the little, like the gems of stand-up that are featured throughout the film, how did you edit for those? I'm sure you had a ton of content to go through. You know, what was your process for selecting the stand-up that ended up being featured in the film?
Yeah, well, it was pretty easy. We had all the comedians, they did about a 5-minute set. And so it was like it was like cutting a documentary. And that's actually my background, more or less, is in editing behind the scenes for like Disney and stuff. So I'm pretty familiar with how to cut things to make them more concise. And I wanted the comedy to be sort of like an intro to the scene or an exit. I didn't want it to, you know, fall into it being a comedy showpiece. And I picked the jokes that made me laugh the hardest. And some of them also were darker. I liked the darker comedy because it felt like in this world of Too Late, there was a lot of darkness and people were commenting on the darkness. So that made that choice a lot easier. But yeah, usually it was just cutting to keep it flowing and make sure the joke got all the way out there.
And that makes me think too, just in terms of like the techniques that you use, like your filmmaking techniques to also balance out like the darkness with the levity. Could you speak a little bit to how you did that with your camera work and other approaches?
Definitely. Yeah. From the beginning, I really liked having sort of a gritty look, and I didn't want it to get too depressing. And so I worked with the set designer, with Sam Schlossberg, to make it more magical. And especially with Bob's office room, it's very Victorian. It has a lot of elements that are kind of vaudevillian and quirky. And so that immediately puts you into a world that's not as serious. What also helped was using music to keep it more fun and playful. The lighting is definitely on sort of the more contrasty, darker range. And I think it works really well, especially with the juxtaposition with the actual stand-up acts, because it's full on light on stage. And so you have the on-stage world that is illuminated completely. And then backstage, it's very dark and murky. And that's where monsters come out and maybe grab you, you know? So I hope it worked to keep it light, but that was mostly it. And then also our amazing cast were just so funny. And yeah, I think they brought a lot of that levity.
And so speaking of Alyssa and Will, I wanted to ask the two of you a question. So, you know, you're both obviously stand-up comedians in addition to being actors. And since COVID, you know, obviously like the traditional spaces for public comedy have not been available. And I notice, Will, you have like web series and videos online, and Alyssa, your Twitter is like just crushing it. Like the concerts are back. Video that you posted on Twitter was so funny. But so my question is, you know, these kind of alternative ways that you're reaching audiences, are those things that you have kind of sought out and done more of, like since the shutdown of the public kind of stand-up opportunities, or is that something that you each had been doing in other ways even before COVID?
Do you want to go?
I was seeing which one of us would bite first.
literally anything you mentioned just now was all done before COVID. I've like truly spent COVID just sort of like going insane and not really knowing why until, I don't know, like 10 or 11 months in. I was extremely disappointed to realize that I did miss doing stand-up comedy. It was like a really difficult, horrific realization to come to, and I'm still really struggling with it. But I just haven't, I don't know, I haven't really been I haven't been creative in a way anyone else has really seen, more than like, I think 2 Zoom shows I've done over the last year.
I think I've probably had a little bit of an opposite experience. I was doing a lot of stand-up and sketch and acting beforehand. And throughout the pandemic, I've sort of realized I don't really miss doing live stand-up. And I don't think it's something I'll pursue actively once things open back up. So in a way, it's been kind of nice, like for things to slow down, you get to really look at what your life looks like and what stuff are you missing? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? And so that being said, this probably, it didn't help that I did a corporate Zoom show and I had to do 45 minutes and there was got to be 100 people. No one had their cameras on or their audio on. And so I was basically just talking to myself for 45 minutes and I logged off and I was like, I think I'm good. I think I can take a little break on this for now. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Fun times.
But Ron, you've been doing a lot. I remember being so comforted by your show the first night of the pandemic when everything was so stressful. I logged on and you were like talking and doing your show, and you've done that all year.
Yeah, we didn't really miss a beat, because I had to continue doing my show, which was at midnight, then 11 p.m. Every Saturday, and we did it for, and we're still doing it. You guys are on the show this Saturday.
I know.
If you're watching this live. This
Ron,
Saturday, 11 p.m. at Ron Lynch 1. Okay, I'm done.
It's on Instagram, right?
No, yeah, I didn't want to stop, but there was no stopping. I wanted to keep performing somehow. It's a little strange not hearing laughs, but my piano player gave me an iPad with a bunch of buttons on it that I push, and they have laughter and bad trombone sounds, and I can always add them in. But I never wound up using them very much because to be doing comedy and have somebody do a joke and then have fake laughter, it's kind of insulting. Or if you have it go wah wah, they're not going to enjoy it. But yeah, I didn't want to stop.
So Ron, I'm a huge fan of your work, as I'm sure a lot of others in the audience are, from home movies to Bob's Burgers to, the list goes on.
Oh.
And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about why you were drawn to playing the character of Bob DeVore.
Well, I love the script when I read it, and the craziest thing is I read the thing and didn't associate it with my midnight show, I don't think at all, when I first was reading it. And after all, it's not exact, but it's a parallel to a late night show and me hosting it. So I don't know why I didn't see that. The script went beyond that for me, I guess, when I was reading it, but. Once I realized that, I went, hey, that's my show. I'm the evil. Wait a minute. I'm the guy eating people. Yeah. But yeah, no, I loved the script, I think, and it was distracting from me thinking it was the same thing as my show. And it really isn't. I mean, it's just me hosting a show and then my character hosting a show. In a way. I mean, yeah. And it's a variety show. I mean, stand-up is pushed, but it's also a variety show. So in the movie, there's jugglers and people doing characters and pretty crazy stuff, and which I like to do on the show if I can. Right now, I'm on a tiny Instagram TV screen that I'm having people on, so they have to kind of compress their stuff to a tiny little screen. But it works. I don't know. I like it. I mean, I've been trying to get off the Instagram shows, but I like doing it on Instagram. It's live. It seems live.
Because you were doing Tomorrow, for a while in person. So this is like the next sort of like manifestation of that variety show, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm not going to bother doing a live show where I have to get people into a room. Why? Okay, I'm kidding.
We've got a question from the audience here. I would like to hear about how everyone was cast. Amazing cast.
Well, so Ron came on first, and once Ron was on, I think we cast Brooks because Tom really had Brooks Wheelan in mind for our villain. One, because we knew we could pull off that comedy kind of aspect of it, and also he's a terrific actor. We saw him in this short he had written called what is it called?
The Attempt, directed by Andy Landon, which was really showed this amazing range. He's a great comedian, but he's also I just saw, wow, that guy has a real depth and there's a bit of a darkness that's there. But anyway, so Brooks came on.
Yes, we knew he could pull it off. And then through our casting director, I think Alyssa came in to read for a different part. And when she came in, we were like, oh my gosh, this is our Violet. So once we had Alyssa, Tom actually got Will to come in because
I'm a fan. I'm not going to hide that. I'm a fan of Will Weldon. I thought we were friends, but there's been a long period where we hadn't seen each other. It was more of an acquaintanceship, I guess, by the time we brought him in. But I was like, I'd also seen him in a project, coincidentally, by Andy Landon, which is called Lose Yourself, Save Yourself with Barry Rothbart, which got so funny. And I just thought between that and having known him, one of your first open mics, I think I was hosting at Silver Lake Lounge when you and Rebecca had come in to do the show. So I've just been a fan for a really long time. And I think all the stuff that we saw in these people, they really delivered in the final film.
Yeah. I think when Will came in, he was like, Tom Becker, he's not really tall, right? And
yes, we'd had a disastrous game of Risk the last time, I think.
The last time
I have no patience.
I gotten so pissed off at him for not taking a game of Risk seriously enough. Yeah, that's why.
Oh.
We lost you.
Technology.
So then,
the casting process,
so then once, so then we had Will and Alyssa read together, and later we found out that Will and Alyssa have the same manager, and so I think they got to practice on their own.
I think
so they had tremendous chemistry at the second audition. We were like, oh my God, they're meant for the role.
But regardless of the behind the scenes chicanery in the casting process, they were just absolutely excellent on screen together. As you see, the chemistry is undeniable, and you almost feel like, should I be watching this when they kiss? It's a moment of intimacy, and you're like, I don't know if I should be looking at this. So it's real, and it's and then as far as all the comedians.
Right, and then so Ron has been longtime friends with Fred and Mary Lynn. He could probably tell you more about those stories, but he reached out to them on our behalf, and they were both interested and they liked the script. So we were really lucky to get them on. And they had a lot of fun. They seemed to have a great time on set. Yeah,
and the performers was just a matter of I basically just picked the couple of dozen of what I thought the most unique and the widest range of voices from the stand-up scene was. And I just sort of laid them at Diana's feet and said, here you go. And here's the number of sequences she needed to do. And picked for every amazing performer, there's another 10 that we would have loved to have put in the film. And there's such a concentration of creativity and talent in the independent comedy scene in Los Angeles. But hopefully this will be nice little inroads for people to follow some of these talent and, be rewarded with the amazing creativity they'll find.
And Alyssa, I have a question for you about Violet, your character. I feel like, a lot of us can probably relate to that character and just like how much she has to put up with in order just to get her footing in the industry. And you brought such like pathos to that through her whole kind of evolution. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you prepared for that role?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I think that it spoke to me a lot. Essentially this woman is, killing people and assisting in murder because that's easier to her than believing in herself or saying out loud what she really wants or saying out loud that she thinks she's good enough to do this thing. And that to me is such a long part of my journey that it felt very like I could kind of build out what I thought Violet's life probably looked like up until this point. Nobody wants to be doing that, but it starts with just a foot in the door, and then that a foot in the door come like, I'll do this for a week, and that becomes years of your life, and then your life is flying by. So I think I just spent a lot of time thinking about moments in my life where I'd been stuck in that place where I wouldn't believe in myself and did stuff that now I'm like, oh God, like I want to like, you know, hug that person. And so I saw a lot of that in Violet. She needed, you know, all she needed was to believe in herself. And it's like, she just did it took her a long time to do that. So it's what I loved about her. You know, the journey is literally just her getting on stage. We don't even see her, you know, do a joke at the end. We just are like, that's enough. It's a small step, but for her, that was like, that took a lot of courage. Yeah.
Yeah, her character, it's interesting, like the way that you describe it of like, you know, we can relate to it, but then, you know, she's like killing people and
right.
Hopefully, but it's kind of, just that.
It's like, it's a perfect metaphor for like the worst thing, like the things
totally.
we do, the jobs we do. You know, I was like a consultant. it's like, you do these things, you look back, like, what was I doing? I was like, you know, talking to like Coca-Cola about finances. It's like, what am I doing? You know, and it's just little things you do when you're in
right.
So yeah, not equating that to murder, but you know.
I think this is really a cautionary tale for assistants. Like you don't want to do too good of a job, because if you're a really good assistant, they'll never let you go.
Totally.
So
always that all the time. You get a promise of if you just do this, but it becomes a real gatekeeper, and there's no gate. It's like you could just leave, but they make you feel like, you know, Bob made me feel like if I just did one more body, if I killed one more person, he'd give me an opportunity. But it would never be enough. It would never be enough.
Yeah.
I think the essential.
Sorry, go ahead. No,
I think the essential heroism of the character Violet, what makes her a hero, is at the end she, you know, without too many spoilers, but she owns her complicity in this whole process, and that's what I just absolutely love about Violet. It's like, okay, that's the redeeming thing, you know, and that for me, that is the only thing that can come close to making up for all the horrible damage that she probably did over the years, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, she's not a victim. She doesn't like fall into that kind of victim trope at all.
No, yeah, she got herself there.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question from the audience, which is, what were your favorite like scenes to film? So anybody want to take that one?
I loved the fat suit. I mean, I loved any special makeup stuff that was in the show, because, you know, as an actor, you get to look at yourself wearing this crazy makeup and you go, wow, this is pretty good. I don't have to do a lot of acting. Not really. That's not what you think, but it's pretty great. I mean, it's pretty great. And, and just a realistic, and it didn't take that long. I would love to say it took me 8 hours to get into that fat suit. But no, the makeup people were so great, and the person that designed that thing, it took only like an hour and a half, I think, and we were ready to go. But
Mo Meinhardt, she was amazing.
Mo, yeah. It's pretty crazy. I love those scenes, and then I got to play a monster. So
I was going to ask you, Ron, what would be like a day in the life of like filming in that prosthetic? So there was like an hour and a half of makeup, and then how long were you wearing the costume during filming on a usual day?
That's a good question, and I felt really weird eating lunch in the fat suit. I would eat 3 times the amount I would normally eat. It was weird. That's how good an actor I am. No. I think the days where I wore the special makeup and stuff were isolated. Like you'd be shooting all the scenes in the somebody knew what they were doing. I don't know if it was the director or what, but I would only be certain days that would be the crazy makeup days. And then, you know, if I was wearing a different kind of makeup, like just on my face or whatever, then those things were shot. But yeah, it was really the time was great, greatly used, and it was never over. I didn't feel like I was wasting a lot of time just sitting around in makeup. Let me say it that way. Everything was done well.
Yeah, it was an incredibly fast shoot. I think we had 15 days. And then afterwards in post-production, I went out with my camera and I picked up shots that we didn't get on the day. So
yeah, I was working a night job for the whole time that they were shooting, and I would get to work and I would look up and I would see if the moon was in the right phase, you know, whether it had a particularly beautiful cloud passing over. And I texted Diana, I was like, Diana, get out there, you got to get this. It's perfect B-roll of the moon. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how long it took me to get a good shot with the clouds covering the moon. And then the street sweepers, you can only find them when you have to move your car, and they're there. But if you're trying to film them, they are elusive. I was stalking street sweepers for days. And I guess maybe I shouldn't even say this. I definitely blurred out the license plate. I did some After Effects on the license plate, but this is some real indie filmmaking here.
Nothing legally actionable at all.
Nothing legally actionable.
No. But yeah, it's guerrilla filmmaking. And it was just so amazing to see the process of her just going and getting what she needed, you know.
And I was going to ask you too, DW, I know you filmed this in 15 days, which is phenomenal. What would you say were the biggest challenges with that type of production schedule, and how did you work through those?
Let's see. Probably the biggest challenge was the makeup, because we had to shoot all of the scenes with Bob in his suit on, like Ron said, on specific days. I think we only had 4 days, I want to say, in the suit. And because his character slowly changes throughout the film. And we only had 1 suit. So once he became like the waterlogged Bob, we couldn't go back. And so we had to figure out kind of the best way to do it. And then we actually found this amazing location in downtown LA that was the Hungarian Cultural Center, which was just this giant building, and it had like 9 separate areas, I want to say. And so we just let our production designer go and start making each room in different areas. So we'd be filming Bob's apartment, and then they'd be building the restaurant over in another area. And that helped out extremely.
That was our production designer, Sam Schlossberg, and our gaffer, Tom Peak. They would be setting up these gorgeous setups, in one room while everybody else was shooting in another. And
I think that's the only way we were able to shoot it in 15 days. Otherwise, and we did shoot on location for the pushing Bob into the. I feel like I'm giving away too many things. So we shot on location at a lake, and. And actually, that was a really fun day. We also had a 7.1 earthquake in the middle of filming.
Of I think it was our last day. It was
right.
It was our last day of filming.
It was insane. I just remember looking across the lake and seeing one of our 2K spotlights fully bending over and touching the ground. I was like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, the crust of the earth, I just saw it moving. And I've never experienced an earthquake outside. And I felt so vulnerable and small. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, last day.
So that was also very fun, I think.
Everyone lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Will, I have a question for you. Kind of an esoteric question, but so you're a comedian, you're an actor, and I imagine, even though those are both like performance arts, I imagine they require like a different headspace, right? So I'm wondering, like, especially playing a role like this, like, how do you kind of toggle back and forth between those mediums? Does it come easier? Is it like changing gears? Oh, can't hear you. Oh, dang it.
Take your headset off, Will.
Being as big of a fan as I am, I can probably just riff on how great he is and what a command of his. And if you look at Will's work that's not comedic, some funny shorts and stuff, but like he has this amazing sensitivity that comes across, and I think it's really into the character. And I don't know, Alyssa, you work with him every day. You know, you can see you were face to face.
I kind of strongly, like, I couldn't have seen doing the film with anyone else. Will is extremely easy to act with, and it was like it's incredible because you watch him do stand up, and he's such a stand up. I mean, his jokes are like they're so tight and they're so punched up, but he's equally as great as an actor. I think the best, like, to just be there and be open and connect, he's really good at that, which is kind of at the core of stand-up as well.
And he's a pretty serious guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Am I still gone?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, sure.
Did you hear us compliment you?
No, thank God.
Classic Will.
Yeah, toggling between. I mean, it's not really. It's not so tough because like nobody's really just anybody who's like, I just go on stage and I'm just myself. That's like a lie. Like people lie when they say that because like sometimes you're going on stage right after you've like gotten into an argument with like whomever on the phone. And you have to, then it's not, if you're yourself, you're going to go up and like eat shit horribly in that headspace. So it's no different than just like taking a few seconds and being like, all right, here's what I plan to do in this moment. And, you know, if it works, that's great. And if it doesn't, I don't know, I guess I'll have to figure it out or die or something. I don't know.
Well, make sure, Will, to go back and watch this because there was some good reflection on your craft. So
sounds horrific to me. No, thank you.
Now, Ron, I heard before the panel that you've got a pretty great story about your first meeting with Fred Armisen. If you would be so interested in sharing such story.
Wow. I'll edit it down, but. I used to perform a lot at the original Largo in LA, which was a small, dark club with red candles, and it was perfect for stand-up. It was in the corner and kind of dark and low ceiling and really fun. And I always enjoyed, they treated me well there, and I had a great time performing. And so cut to a few days later or whenever, and I get a message on my... was it an answering machine? No. Anyway, it was a message. It was a message, a voice message saying, "Hello, Ron. Hi. I saw you at Largo, and I really like what you're doing. And I do a lot of things. And I think that you and I should get up on stage and do a thing. We should have some. We should do something. Anyway, call me. Here's my number. I think it would be great. Oh, yeah, and you're so funny." Click. And so I play it for my girlfriend at the time, and she goes, "Wow, I don't know. That sounds kind of crazy." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to, why would I want to go on stage with him? I don't even know him or anything." Cut to probably 3 weeks later, I'm doing a show at a cafe, and I'm hosting it. And Fred's on the show, and I go up to him and I said, "All right, what would you like me to say about you?" And he goes, "Ron, you know me." And I went, "No, I don't. Just tell me what do you want me to say?" He goes, "Yeah, I think you're really funny." And I just went, "Oh, it was you." And that was basically it. I gave him a horrible introduction. And, so anyway, we've been friends ever since, and yeah, it was pretty great. And I don't know what he owed me that I asked him to do the movie, but he owed me something. But he had me on Portlandia, so that was one of my favorite things ever. Yeah, I loved doing that show, and it was forced improv in a weird way on parts of that show. Which is another story, but I didn't know they were going to make it hard for me as my character, the two of them. The improv was really weird.
They didn't put you in a suit and make you eat in prosthetics, though.
Oh, no, you're right. They didn't. No, you're right. They didn't do that to me. No.
Also, Ron's best joke, well, he has a lot of them, but on set, he would spend 2 hours in the chair. The shot would be set. We'd all be mic'd. He'd get to his mark. And then, they'd be like, okay, 2 minutes or whatever, last looks. And then Ron would just look at me and go, "Yeah, I'm going to get going." Putting the head
out. Yeah. Anything to lighten up the load in a horror movie.
I just remember towards the end that Ron, you were having so much fun. You were like, "What? This is over? Like, I want to keep on going. Like,
Yeah.
This is the last day." Yeah.
Well, I saved some for Too Late 2.
Good.
Yes.
Too Late 2 is just
Eat
too
it.
late and then another TOO after it.
Yeah.
It's true. It's built in.
Keeps going and going. Here's a question for everyone. If there really was a human eating monster in LA, where would they be hanging out?
Comedy Store. Next question. For sure, the Comedy Store. 100%.
Agreed.
The Comedy Store. lot of great comics. Listen, I bet anyone $100 that the second the Comedy Store is open, people will start disappearing from there because there will be some monster that eats people like at the Comedy Store. 100%.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
No one can top that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Yeah.
expensive. All right, we've got another question from the audience here. This one is for the actors. To what extent it's almost riffing a little bit on what Will said earlier, but to what extent are you playing yourselves in your characters, the good and the bad? Or how much do you relate to the characters that you played?
Well, I've run shows, and I think sometimes there is a little bit of a controlling issue or something in the way you want things to be a certain way, but hopefully I'm never a monster at it. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But yeah, that's
I have to say, there's that one shot of you, Ron, where you shush Alyssa's character, and that's the closest I think it ever got to like an angry Ron Lynch. I was in a couple of bands that would played the Tomorrow Show a couple of times, and it was just so audible backstage chatter, and occasionally Ron would come over and go shh. I was so glad we got it on film. It was like that's it. That's the most
people don't respect other people performing on a stage live.
Yeah. You were right.
It's just wrong, and it's coming from a theater background, I guess, on my part. But yeah, that's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and the standards are so high for that show. It was always just like a magical experience, and continues to be even the Instagram iteration of it.
Well, as someone who's been shushed backstage at the Tomorrow Show probably 36 times, let me just, in my defense, it's because your friends are there and you get like wound up backstage, like joking around with them and like having a fun time is the issue.
Well, yeah, backstage also you're isolated from the actual stage, so you think you're out of it.
But in fact, we're all the loudest human beings in the universe.
But Will, I think I shushed you on the set of the movie several times.
I think so. Yes.
I've been shushed by everybody. I've been shushed by just about on Earth. I get shushed. My wife is frequently asking me if I remember to take my Ritalin most mornings. I'm just constantly being asked to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of touched on that in my other answer. I think there were certainly parts that were drawing from like definitely a past version of myself, or like the most fear-based parts of myself. But then there are parts too where I have these like heels I wear all the time. They're like 4-inch heels. I wear them like always. And sometimes I'd wear them, and if my feet weren't in the shot, and then Diana, remember you'd be like, you got to put your flats on because those are you're not Violet. You're like being yourself.
It was like kick-ass Alyssa shoes, yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, Violet's gotten her shit together. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got another question from the audience here. For each of you, what is your favorite monster?
Okay, I can start because I can think of a lot. I love Chucky because I love the like bitchy monsters. Like I don't want like a terrifying, disgusting monster. I want a monster that is like mean and shitty. And like later Freddy Krueger falls into this too, but I love the way Chucky doesn't just kill people he'll be like, shut up, bitch. Like he's just
Yeah, he's really shitty about it.
Yeah, he's like such a dick. It's like not enough to him to murder people. He also is just like rude. Like you're like, my goodness, sir. It's great. I love the Brad Dourif Chucky is for sure my favorite.
That's good.
Wow. I don't know where. Do you want to go, Alyssa?
No, you're my favorite, Bob. Ron.
Wow. I love the classic Universal monsters, but at the same time, I love the Christopher Lee. Oh my God, what's the producer director? They did all those Christopher Lee.
Hammer horror.
Huh? Hammer. Yeah,
Hammer
Hammer.
Studios.
Hammer horror movies, man. Love them. Yeah.
I think my favorite monster, and I sort of just remember this, is I came up in kind of like the second generation of Roger Corman by working for an editor, Alan Holzman, who did a few Roger Corman movies. But I think my favorite is probably the, oh gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. The Seymour, Feed Me Seymour.
Audrey 2.
Audrey
Little
2.
Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, just because just the conceit is so hilarious. Of course, the cast.
Yeah, I mean, if you do you want to hear from me too? The list is just way too big. I mean, everything from Cthulhu to I got right before this started, I got a notice that Crimson Peak is now available on Netflix. So I'm like, oh, I get to watch that because the ghost in that is the sort of the blood and the red imagery and everything is so fascinating. So yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, like I think Teen Wolf had a huge effect on me. So I loved werewolves for a long time. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Hammer movies. Every Halloween time, I like to watch, Brides of Dracula and stuff like that. And gosh, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, I mean, just what an incredible ability with the language. I mean, just listening to them speak, even in like Star Wars, Peter Cushing is captivating. So yeah. But honestly, my favorite movie is the movie my wife made. It really is. And I think what I love about Bob DeVore is the straightness of how he plays some of the funny lines, like where he's just businesslike, and in the monster mode. And I think there's something that we've never really seen that kind of a monster before.
Or the embarrassment, I think.
Yeah.
I've never seen.
Caught with the little kid, like with chocolate smeared all over his face, like, oh, Jimmy, I didn't see you there, that energy.
And I think what both of you and Ron did so well was like, that is what a lot of monsters present as, is sort of normal and charming. And especially in Hollywood, especially in comedy, charming is like, it's a tool for good and a tool for bad. And so I thought it was really, smart that Ron's someone that Bob is someone that everyone sees and is like, thinks they're so funny and talented and great. And I'm this person who's like, watching who he really is behind the scenes. And I think that disconnect is very, very real. In comedy.
Yeah, well said. Now we have there's in the chats right now, people are like all very excited about like the Hammer horror references and the Universal monsters. So it looks like we've got definitely a good set of monster lovers as well as comedy lovers here. Now, is there, I want to make sure that things that you're all working on that, fans who may be watching should be checking out. Ron, I know you mentioned it earlier, but for those who joined late, could you say how we can find your show on Instagram?
Sure. Every Saturday at 11 p.m. Pacific time, at Ron Lynch 1. And I have a Tomorrow Show site too, but there's not that many people on it, not as many people on it. So I've been advised to make it at Ron Lynch 1, And this weekend, Alyssa and Will and Andres DeBouche, who plays the the security guard at the park, they're all on the show along with Moses Robinson. But yeah, it's gonna be fun this weekend. So yes, I'm sorry. Did I talk too long?
No, perfect.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything to?
Yeah, you can find me at Alyssa Limp. I put everything, arguably too much, of myself online. So everything I'm doing and thinking is there. So you can follow me there and see what's coming down the pipe. I don't know what. One of those two.
I never know which one it is. Like you could use them both. Most people
don't land it. You kind of have to go, what's coming down the pike? And no one, if I had said,
People
you
were
can
like,
follow,
"That
you'll see
sounds
what's
good."
coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
No one would have said, but I violeted a little bit in there.
It's all about the delivery.
I don't know. If you see me on the street, say hello. I don't really have a lot going on. I'd appreciate a hello once in a while. Sure, why not?
Well, and to our writer and director, any last words or anything to close before we wrap up our panel tonight?
No, just I'm so excited and so happy to be screening the world premiere at SIFF. Even though COVID and it was definitely a different experience, I'm still happy to be part of it. And to my amazing cast and crew, and it was a real challenge, this film, but a wonderful challenge. And I'm so happy with how it came out and that people are seeing it and seeing what we see in it. And I'm just really proud of everybody.
Yeah. And I guess it's a good time to say thank you. I've said it before, but to Alyssa and Will and Ron for helping make this happen. In a lot of ways, this is a love letter to artists and especially to our particular scene, but places anywhere in the world where people are against all odds, making much like we did, creating something that hopefully people connect with. And now that people are connecting with it through SIFF, it's been a real privilege. So thank you so much for your work.
Feeling is mutual. Thanks for trusting us to tell your story.
Yeah, I think I said it while we were shooting it, but it is genuinely the very first positive experience I've ever had on set. I've had neutral.
No, it was great. It was great. The crew and the cast, everybody was great. Yeah. It was a very positive experience. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was also like so hectic, and there was so much to shoot that it really put it into focus that I was like, oh, there's like no reason for any production to not be this pleasant, because truly this is like there is so much work that has to be done, and like people are constantly moving and having to work, and still it is like a perfect joy to come and do it. So like if you have like in the millions of dollars and for some reason your second AD is like screaming at everybody, there's simply no need for that to have happened.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, no, wait, we gotta. It was a joy.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. But I also think sometimes maybe that's the cause. It's like we all knew, like we have 15 days. We don't have a lot of margin for error, so we like have to work together as a team. There wasn't any egos. We didn't have, we were all in the same room. Sometimes on sets, you go to a trailer and you're sitting in a trailer for 4 hours and then you go meet your scene partner. We were like, I didn't know anyone before doing this. We didn't know each other. And so we got to know each other every day, sitting in rooms. And I think that made a big difference. We really, crossed the finish line together as a team.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks for being here on the panel, and thanks to everyone who tuned in to listen. And, you can obviously, if you haven't seen Too Late yet, you've heard some spoilers, but still worth watching it.
Not too late.
Not too late.
No.
All right.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. At Ron Lynch 1.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.